Good afternoon. Welcome to this video. This is a very specific video which is designed to explain and just go over the tasks for Unit 1 and 2 within Assignment 2 for my Level 3 students for this year. So it's a very specific video with that in mind, just because obviously a couple of them are semi-complex. And just making sure that there are a few tasks within it and making sure that you are covering everything within the tasks that you need to cover. Hopefully prompting you to make sure that when you come to submit everything for this assignment that you pass as much as possible, because that's obviously a benefit to everybody. So I'm going to start from task 1. Not assignment 1. Assignment 1 was the one previously, obviously. Now, this has kind of been parked because we didn't complete all of the tasks which I hoped we'd complete for assignment 1. So if you look at assignment 1, there'll be a variety of different tasks within it, and I was hoping to do this for those tasks. However, ultimately, it's not a long-term big issue because we can use other variety of tasks that you've used. So basically what we're looking for is you need to provide evidence of the different ways that you have communicated. So hopefully you've already identified by the time you've started looking at this video a range of different ways in which you have communicated through mainly document types, different document types that you have used. Okay, so we'll do a couple of in-class activities which at the time of recording this video you've not actually done, but hopefully by the time you are watching this you will have done. And basically the idea behind it is to identify the different tasks that you've done over not just in the units that you're doing for myself, but for other people, because we're just looking for a range of different ways that you've communicated. Okay, that's the key thing here. And then you'll be looking at what you used that document type to do. Okay, so for example, right now I'm using presentation software and video editing software. I know you can't see the video editing software, but that's how I'm recording it. You'll just have to trust me on that. In order to give you this information, okay? And there are a range of advantages and a range of disadvantages for that. And obviously that's something that I'm looking to do within the classroom. So I'm looking to look at a range of advantages and disadvantages for the different document types, and then you will identify the different document types that you've done previously. So for example, Word document, Excel, and so on. And then you'll be able to say, okay, well, we've used this document type to do this activity, and the pros and cons of that are, and then you'll be able to describe them, and then obviously you'll be justifying why they were appropriate in a given situation. In order to evidence it, you're going to need screen grabs, okay? And you can use more than the one screen grab. You use as many screen grabs as you need to in order to evidence the points that you are trying to make. Okay, and while you can talk about negative sides of certain document types, I'm more interested in justifying why you used the document type in a given situation and why you did certain things. So I know one of the tasks, for example, is I've asked you to record over what you're doing, which is similar to what I'm doing with this PowerPoint. So the reason why I've asked you to do that is similar to why I'm doing this now, in terms of I can actually make it, hopefully, you may disagree, but hopefully you'll be looking at the text on the screen. It's not overwhelming, it's to the point, and I can then expand on it the way that I'm doing now. And the reason why I've asked you to do that is actually it's better evidence that you understand it if you are talking about it. If you have some words on a screen, that's great, but ultimately there are reasons why we do certain things. One thing I do want you to be aware of, okay, is when you are coming to talk about this, I appreciate that you've probably used a few different parts of the Office suite, Now, when you are talking about document types, Word and Excel and other associated software are names for different examples of particular pieces of software, obviously, but they are not document type. Okay, so if you're talking about Word, then the document type that you're talking about is most likely word processed or a report. Okay, and your Excel is going to be a spreadsheet. Okay, and that's what, because there are different examples of those. They are not exclusive to what they do. PowerPoint is not the only presentation software that you have. I mean, you've used Spark, for example, which is a hybrid of all kinds of different types of software. So, you've used a range of different things, but ultimately you're looking at the overall type rather than the software itself, if that makes sense, I hope. And, if you do go through and you just go, well, Word does this and Word does that and Excel does this and Excel does that and Spark does this, then actually you're not doing what I'm asking from you. Okay, so please bear that in mind when you're doing it. Second task is going to be the SMART targets. And I suspect I'll probably be going, you need to improve that target, you need to improve that target, you need to improve that target. And I hope that's not the case. And, by highlighting these sorts of things, I'm hoping that won't be the case, but I'm looking for good, SMART targets here. Okay. So it's not just, I'm going to do assignment 1 and I'm going to make, I'm going to make it good by spending more time on it, and I'll do it whenever. I'll leave it to the last minute, but I don't really know when I'm going to do it. It's not a SMART target. It's a very poor target, okay? Because you're not actually saying anything, really. It's too broad, okay? Because there are probably, within each assignment, multiple different tasks within the assignment. So what are you going to be doing and when? So you want to be really narrowing it down to maybe specific tasks or even parts of that task. And then saying, okay, well, how am I going to do that particular thing? So let's say, for example, I know a few people may be having issues with information flow diagram. It's a reasonably common thing for students to have some problems with, because it's not maybe as clear cut as if you're doing a Word document. You could say, okay, well, I want to make the information flow diagram. First thing that I would recommend you do for an information flow diagram is get a text editor, or even get a notepad, as in a physical notepad, or a notepad that's on the computer, and just write down all the things that you need to do, or all the things that need to be within the flow diagram. It means that you can really kind of think about all the processes that need to be in there before you even start making the thing. Okay. And then you can say, okay, well, I'm going to give myself a couple of hours to do that on whatever day, and then you're actually making it very clear as to what you need to do. Then if you need to spend more time on it later on, then you can do that. But, you're really kind of narrowing it down what you're going to do. Okay. This basically will form something called a PDP, which is a whole criteria in itself. So I will be fussy with this, because actually it is really quite straightforward, but I can't give you the SMART targets myself. Obviously there's a mixture of different reasons for that. First one is that actually it's your SMART target, not my SMART target, it's yours. And if I give it to you, then it becomes quite, you need to go and do this. It's not my target. You need to be taking responsibility for this. And it becomes much more powerful for you if you are making these targets yourself, okay? Because you're taking responsibility and you're breaking them down and you're learning far more from it than if we would just tell you, okay, you need to do this and you've got half an hour to do it. And also, you guys are 16 plus years old. You should be able to do this yourself, okay? It's a good thing to get in the habit of. Okay. Now, obviously, if you haven't made these targets by the point you're watching this, you will struggle to be able to set yourself a reasonable target and then review it in the time that you have left. You may need to find yourself setting it further in the future, and then we'll meet it at a later date, but I mean, I asked you to do this at about the beginning of October. So, if you haven't done it by that point, and after repeated reminders, then that's not a great thing. And it's certainly something that you would need to improve in the future. Okay. MIS, so you're talking about features and functions of information systems. So I'm not going to discuss this that much within this video, because there is 2 videos on the VLE and a set of PowerPoint slides, and we discussed it in class. You need to, if you're struggling with obviously the things within it, use the resources that are there, ask questions about it, but you need to be finding a way to retain the information that's given to you within the classroom, and use the things within it. And if you just sat there like a lemon and you're not taking responsibility for what you're doing, and you sat there on your phone or whatever, then there's not an awful lot that we can do about it. Okay, so I'm looking for you to discuss features and functions of information systems as a whole. So there you'd be talking about things like data, you'd be talking about things like people, you'd be talking about hardware and software you would need to run the information system, and so on. And then obviously you'd look at 4 of these within a specified organisation. So the one, if you are struggling, I've suggested to you is the college. However, I really am not particularly fussed which organisation you use. However, they all need to be in the same organisation. Okay, so I don't want one being in McDonald's, I don't want another one being in TK Maxx, I don't want another one being in the college, and so on. All of these 4 information systems need to be in the same organisation. Okay. That should be relatively straightforward, I would hope. I mean, ultimately, if you're talking about a shop, you could talk about things like MIS systems, so management information systems, for things like stock control. Then you're talking about transaction processing systems for things like processing money, and so on, and so on, and so on. Information flow diagram. Now, I do appreciate that while there are some people that are really struggling with this, it is a merit criteria, so there's only actually a limited amount of stuff that I can really do. Okay, what I would suggest to you is, if you don't get it straight away, to start at the beginning, get it very clear in your head about the whole process that I've given you. So I've obviously asked you for the process for an external student, and always assume in this instance, I'm going to make it easier for you to assume that the student is external. Even if you are a progressing student, at some point you were external to the college. There's nobody, no student that automatically would come into the college from within. That would just never happen. So at some point you were external. Okay, and then you're applying into the college, and then the processes that would happen to get you enrolled onto a course. Okay, obviously there are a range of different options that could happen when you apply. As long as the end result is a reasonable attempt and a realistic attempt of showing the information flow within that, okay, there are a range of different potential correct answers. Okay, but obviously if you've only got 4 or 5 flows, then I would suggest that you probably haven't got enough there. Okay, it is more in depth than that. Okay, if you're unsure about putting stuff in there, you can always ask myself or one of the other tutors, because we're all pretty familiar with the process of enrollment and interviewing and so on. But I would, if I were in your position, and I know I've said this already in this video, go back to the beginning, make a list of all the things that you think might happen, and then you can rearrange it, and it won't harm you particularly. What you don't want to do is go headlong straight into creating this thing, and then halfway through it realize you've missed out 3 or 4 different things, and you've got to completely redesign it from scratch, and that's going to waste your time, and it's going to look quite confusing. for you. So I would recommend you start create like a big list through. It can be quite fiddly and tricky. It is a merit criteria. Okay, not everybody is going to get this criteria. Okay, and if that was the case, it would be a pass criteria. Okay, but it isn't, because it is tricky. All right, and probably the distinctions, just there's an S on the end of that, is probably the easier task, I would say. So the distinction is where you are identifying and describing legal, ethical and operational issues from that flow diagram, and also, so that's one distinction, and then the second distinction is comparing those legal, ethical and operational issues. So compare is a big word there. Okay, I've referred a lot of students in the past because of they're not comparing. So the comparing is something does this, whereas, so that's a key word there, why does that? Okay, or words to that effect. Okay, if you're just getting a load of bullet points and saying this is what X does, bang, 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 and then you've got another set of bullet points and you go Y does bang, bang, that's not a comparison. Okay, if you've got a table and your list, and I don't want a table, okay, but if you have a table and you have two lists, it's also not a comparison, especially not for a distinction criteria at this level. Okay. P6 and 7, okay, so I don't actually know the fancy name for this. I guess it's kind of data manipulation and so on, except you don't actually change the data in this case. So within the spreadsheet, and using the tools, I don't know why I haven't got the word using there, within the spreadsheet to answer the queries which are on Moodle. Okay, and I would expect from you to be able to use a range of different formatting, such as conditional formatting, sort filters, and I would definitely expect a suitable range, so range means more than one, of charts within your submission. Okay, and you'll be explaining why the way you've done it is suitable. You could use pivot tables to try and make your life easier, and so on. Okay, so there's a range of different things within that I would be expecting to see from you. Okay, ultimately the submission will be in a Word document with with you needing the screen grabs and the charts and so on within it, to be able to back up what you're saying. Finally, we're going to be reviewing your SMART targets. Okay, so the goal is, if you have already set your targets and did that when you were initially asked to do, then there should be enough time for you to be able to go in and review your SMART target. So you say, yes, I've met my SMART target and this is what happened and this is what I can do better. Or you're saying, no, I didn't meet my SMART target, this is what happened and this is what I need to do in the future to make sure that I meet the targets that I set myself. Reviewing the targets is really important in life. Okay, if you don't reflect on things you do in life, then and I know that I'm turning this into something that's much bigger than just these SMART targets, but self-reflection is a really important thing because none of us are perfect. Okay, and if you are not constantly reviewing what you're doing, thinking, how can I be better? Okay, how can I take my skill levels and improve them? Okay, no one is going to do this for you. All right, you have to do this yourself, and it's all about improving. It's all about setting goals for yourself constantly and saying, right, I need to do this, I need to work on these in order to be a better person, I need to do whatever. Okay, coming back very quickly into the actual task itself, I'm looking for you obviously to review your targets. Then you would paste those into a Word document. Okay, one for each of your targets. I'm expecting at least 4 screen grabs. And then you will be identifying 3 weaknesses which you have encountered throughout the process. So the weaknesses may not be the same as your actual target itself. There may be something that prevented you from achieving those targets and is something you need to be improving on in the future. So let's say, for example, one of your targets was to do that information flow diagram, and one of the issues that you were encountering was that you didn't plan to you didn't plan your all of the things that could be within the flow before you started doing the diagram, and therefore it slowed you down because you found that there were things that you didn't include initially that you had to include later on. So your weakness there could be that you haven't planned sufficiently. Okay, and again, I can't give these to you. You know, you might find that I might be referring your work, but that's actually only you long term can make a difference to your own work, you know, especially at this level. Okay, and especially if you go into jobs or university after this course, you know, it's very, very much you need to take control of what you're doing. Anyway, like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, that will help you with your submissions ahead of the deadline, which is the 15th of November. We're getting to the point now in the year whereby if students are missing deadlines for reasons which have not or would not be worthy of an extension, that you would find yourself being ineligible for higher criteria. You know, that would potentially have a knock-on effect further down. Well, not potentially, it would have a knock-on effect further down the line. You need to be meeting deadlines. And anyway, this is not a topic for this video. So, you know, like I said, thank you for watching, and I do hope it's helped you out with what you need to do. But ultimately, it's got to be yourself that will take control of your progression. Thank you.